Okay, people, so a former editor of Dragon Ball has been saying a lot of harsh things about Dragon Ball Daima, Super, and the franchise as a whole, and yeah, we're gonna talk about it. Demon Slayer continues to go above and beyond when it comes to things of the box office and in general. Yeah, there's a lot of things happening in the world of Demon Slayer. We got some interesting information on the creator of Bleach and something that he had to say regarding why he draws certain things, and we got so much more to talk about in this exciting episode of Forever News! The only news source that provides anything and everything anime and manga related, and we don't bore you. We get into it. Let's do it. And of course, before we continue, hit that subscribe button and that bell so you can get more videos when I upload, because yeah, I'll be able to tell you guys what's happening in the world of anime and manga, and you'll be able to receive it. Okay, people, so for starters, in the world of Dragon Ball, one of the former editors of the original Dragon Ball manga has been saying a lot of different things about Dragon Ball, the state of Dragon Ball, what's been happening with the Dragon Ball Daima anime. He had some stuff to say about Super, a lot of different things going on, and I ain't gonna lie, it seems like this guy is not holding back anything as far as his thoughts and feelings about the franchise, about Daima, which I always find fascinating just because we know that the Japanese are usually reserved about certain aspects as far as like being very critical about things, especially in a harsh manner, but it seems like dude just had a lot to say, and yeah, I guess let's get started because wow. Former Dragon Ball editor slams Dragon Ball Super artist, says the basics aren't up to par. Dragon Ball Super is one of the most beloved series of the franchise, but it's been on hiatus since Akira Toriyama's passing. While Toriyama was responsible for the main story, Toyotaro illustrated the series and has now taken over the helm. As fans await the series to resume serialization, former editor Kazuhiko Torishima took an unexpected jab at Toyotaro. In a recent interview with Yubo and Mashirito's Koso Koso broadcasting station, which was shared on YouTube, Torishima said that Toyotaro and another artist named Shibata's basics aren't up to par. And mind you, I just want to throw in there the fact that he's the former editor and this is his opinion. That doesn't necessarily reflect on anybody else that is involved in Dragon Ball. He continued, the person in charge of editing the manga doesn't understand why the pieces are divided, how the eyes are guided, how the angles are handled in the information spread, and so they can't check it once it's finished and the pictures are in. They think it's a manga. The comment was shocking, especially considering that Toyotaro has worked closely with Toriyama for several years. In the same interview, Torishima also called Dragon Ball Daima a trash anime, which further sparked public outrage, especially since it's deeply valued as Toriyama's final work. While Torishima's remarks come off as harsh, he certainly has a reputation for criticizing other series apart from Dragon Ball, including One Piece, Attack on Titan, and even Demon Slayer. And again, before we continue, I gotta say that, yeah, totally, everybody can have an opinion, but like to say that Dragon Ball Daima is a trash anime, I think that's definitely going way above and beyond as far as being critical. Like, having an opinion is one thing, or having a disliking towards a series or an anime, manga, whatever the case may be, that's fine. You know, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But Dragon Ball Daima, at the very least, you would have to give it credits on some of its merits. For starters, it's one of the things that has held the Dragon Ball franchise afloat while things get sorted regarding the Dragon Ball Super anime's potential return. The art and animation is some of the best that the Dragon Ball franchise has ever looked. It was absolutely beautiful to see. It took Dragon Ball back to its roots of OG Dragon Ball, making it more adventure based and giving you more of that humor and comedy that Toriyama loved. As the article stated, the fact that Dragon Ball Daima was Toriyama's final work that he actually worked on, so like there's a lot of good that you could say about Dragon Ball Daima. So to say that it's completely a trash anime, so to speak, I think that's definitely a bit much. And again, dude is notorious for being critical about other series as well, so it doesn't seem like this is from a bitter type of place or anything like that. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of people felt a certain way about those comments and remarks, because out of respect for Toriyama, to go that far and say that, it just comes across as a bit much for even me. There was another article that went into, again, what was said on the podcast, where according to Torishima, Toyotaro simply doesn't understand manga at its core. This was not a complaint about art style or pacing, but rather a sweeping criticism of how Toyotaro approaches storytelling itself. Then here's some more stuff that he said about Dragon Ball Daima and what he would have done if he was going to be basically behind the whole Dragon Ball revival. Torishima Daima said, "If I made a new Dragon Ball, I wouldn't return to adventure, nor make Goku a child again. I'd do a reconstruction or a spin-off with Goku or Bulma. Back then, I trusted real professionals. They made Dragon Ball a success. The key was not following each idea of Toriyama, but give autonomy to experts. Once you assign a task, you must not interfere anymore. Let them handle it alone. But it must always be based on the essence that made Dragon Ball a global hit: combat." So it seems as though also Torishima's kind of criticism comes at the fact that Dragon Ball Daima realistically wasn't really based on combat all that much. Like maybe towards the halfway mark, that's where the battle started to get a little bit more epic, when Vegeta was fighting for the Dragon Balls, and when Super Saiyan 3 and all of the other epic stuff that happens in Daima later on, especially the last handful or so of episodes where we get to the climax and whatnot. But yeah, I could see that maybe Dragon Ball Daima could have used more action, because again, yeah, that is what drew a lot of us to Dragon Ball as a whole. Dragon Ball Z, all of the epic and iconic fights against Frieza and Cell and the androids and all that stuff. So no questions there. Yeah, action is a core element, whether you like it or not, of Dragon Ball. And I do like the idea of going into a spin-off direction. I think there was one, I can't find it right now, where he said something like even a spin-off potentially about like Vegeta. I ain't gonna lie, a Vegeta spin-off sounds very fascinating, of course, if it's done right. But yeah, just the way it's presented, his, you know, ideas and opinions and criticisms, especially towards Toyotaro, who hasn't really had the opportunity yet to show what he can do post Toriyama, outside of the one shot that was, I want to say, more so leaning towards comedy, where, you know, the Goten and Trunks superhero stuff, that wasn't necessarily really serious. So to kind of throw all of this on Toyotaro and say that he doesn't understand things, considering all of Dragon Ball Super's run up until the latest one shot, Toyotaro was working hand in hand with Toriyama and the editor staff, it just kind of feels a bit unfair to throw all that criticism towards Toyotaro when Toyotaro has really haven't had his opportunity to show like, yo, this is what I can do, my serious Dragon Ball Super, outside of when I had Toriyama's help. So honestly, it just seems like Torishima was doing a lot as far as all of those criticisms. I mean, again, one more time, Daima could have been different, sure. Daima could have been along the lines of Dragon Ball Z, more like that, but at the same time, it was a breath of fresh air. It gave an opportunity for newcomers to come and kind of understand where Dragon Ball really all started. It gave a little bit of a, for better or worse, nostalgia buzz for people that love Dragon Ball and missed the OG run. Like, it gave a lot. It just definitely wasn't, well, I guess what most Dragon Ball fans in particular are used to, as far as like, you know, the epic and climactic battles that you got from Z, or even some of the stuff in Super. And then to throw a little bit of balance, this is what Toyotaro recently said about the manga, because yeah, I want to kind of give Toyotaro a little bit of room to talk as well. Dragon Ball Super artist reveals shocking facts about latest storylines and how it will affect the future. Dragon Ball Super might have ended its TV series in 2017 when the Tournament of Power came to an end, but the shonen franchise's anime continued. Thanks to two feature films, Dragon Ball Super Broly and Dragon Ball Super Superhero, the Z Fighters battles have marched forward. On the manga front, there have been some major story arcs that have yet to be animated, with the likes of the Moro arc and the Granola the Survival arc potentially running for years should they ever be animated. In a recent interview, Dragon Ball Super's artist dropped a big reveal regarding the printed story. Since the tragic passing of Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama, artist Toyotaro has been thought of as the heir apparent to the Z Fighters, while the Dragon Ball Super manga has yet to reveal when it might return. During an interview discussing the legacy of Toriyama himself, the artist revealed that he wrote the Moro arc himself, with Toriyama simply giving him approval. While the Granola the Survival arc was outlined by Toriyama, Toyotaro did his fair share of heavy lifting. With so much experience, the Dragon Ball Super artist seems primed to continue the story of the Z Fighters in the future. Okay, quickly, that is actually very interesting, because then that kind of gives me a little bit more of, I gotta go back to where Toyotaro essentially didn't have, you know, complete reign to showcase what he can do seriously. If it was literally just like, hey, what do you think of this? And Toriyama gave feedback on yay or nay, yeah, you still had Toriyama's influence, but for the most part, that means that that was Toyotaro. And for better or worse, there were some very awesome and epic moments that when they get animated, everybody will talk about in some of those arcs, especially the Moro arc. Like, there was some really interesting stuff that happened there, and some really epic battles. So yeah, I do want to give Toyotaro a little bit more credit than even what I said before of like, bro has kind of already proven that he can do some epic stuff. But I guess let me know what you guys think. Do you think Torishima was way too harsh and too critical of Toyotaro and the Dragon Ball Super manga, as well as his opinions on Daima and what he would do with a remake of Dragon Ball, so to speak? And kind of want to ask you guys, what would you do if you had the opportunity to do a revival, so to speak, of the Dragon Ball franchise? Would you have gone more of the route of Daima? Would you have done something like Z? Would you do a spin-off with a certain character? Let me know. Okay, moving forward, Demon Slayer. We got so much to talk about Demon Slayer because, in case you don't know, the Infinity Castle film has released in North America as of the recording of this one. And yeah, globally, Demon Slayer has been just demonstrating that anime is not only here, anime is not only mainstream, like, yeah, we did that, but it is really going to the point of rivaling what's happening in Hollywood as a whole because of the extreme levels of success that the Infinity Castle film has had, not only in Japan, but in North America and globally as a whole. Demon Slayer Infinity Castle has become the biggest anime movie in US history. And before we get into that, to hear that is astronomical to me, because I thought at some given point, even years back when anime was really having its boom, that yeah, anime films will get big, but it was a very questionable, I guess, idea on whether or not we would ever be able to pass some of the really big booms that anime had during the like late 90s and early 2000s. In particular, for me, I thought some of those Pokemon movies that came out back in the days, like, there's no way you're gonna be able to pass that, is what I thought. Just because, you know, think back to when you was younger and stuff like that, and you remember like Pokemon was just everywhere, you just couldn't escape it. It was huge. And on top of that, the revenue that those films generated was just something like, yo, there's no way, man, no way, is what I thought. Demon Slayer Infinity Castle was always going to be big, but not every anime fan realized just how big the first part of the finale film trilogy would be, easily becoming the #1 movie in North America with a staggering 70 million USD at the box office for its opening weekend. Tanjiro and the Demon Slayer Corps have something else to celebrate. The latest Ufotable production has skyrocketed to become the biggest anime movie ever released in the West. When you see its competition at the box office, you might be shocked at this accomplishment even more. Before it took the top spot as the #1 anime film in North America, Pokemon the movie held the crown. For some time, Ash Ketchum and Pikachu's Silver Screen Adventure, which involved fighting against the all-powerful Mewtwo, was the biggest anime movie in the West, thanks to earning 85.7 million USD in theaters. Long before Demon Slayer's latest fights existed in theaters, Infinity Castle has surpassed Pokemon the movie by clearing 87.4 million USD. As of this article, I think it's a lot more than that. I want to say it might have even broken already 100 million. As the anime industry continues to skyrocket in popularity across the board, it seems that the biggest competition Tanjiro and company will face in the future is themselves with the trilogy's final 2 films. And that's like making history in the West. And then we got another one that says also with over $559 million grossed, which I think, again, it might have already surpassed 600 million. It's officially the highest grossing Japanese film worldwide ever. So essentially, it's a major success in the West, major success in Japan, major success worldwide. And again, you never thought anime would take it this far. You never thought that anime would actually make it to the point of, like, again, I never thought Pokemon the first movie, like, how? But here we are. And the success has been so enormous that Netflix, who had secured the rights to create a Demon Slayer live action film quite some time ago, are apparently fast tracking the live action Demon Slayer film. Because according to this, it says Netflix is now fully prioritizing Demon Slayer live action adaptation project due to Infinity Castle's massive success. And as I do, I'm going to give the grace to the studio that is producing it, and I'm not gonna throw any sort of judgment right now and say it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that, because until we actually get it, you never really know how good the actual film is until you actually experience it. So by no means am I gonna come in here and say like, oh no, another live action, here we go. Like, that's just unfair. So I'm gonna give it its credit and say that there's potential. You never know what could happen. We have seen that Hollywood is slowly but surely understanding the relevance of anime as a whole and how big it is. And considering that the movie, The Infinity Castle, did what it did, I gotta imagine that Netflix is going to take this more serious. I think back in the days, one of the things that started off where things were with, like, you know, the Dragon Ball Evolution days, is the fact that Hollywood just really didn't understand and didn't see the proof of concept of how popular anime really could be, how popular it was, because at that particular point, we still didn't get to where we're at right now, that anime is a global phenomenon. So now understanding the potential of what these things can do, they'll probably get the best staff they can, the best everything from the lighting to everything you could possibly think of. They're gonna get the best of the best to make sure that, yo, we can actually make something that can really generate revenue, because at the end of the day, it is business. But above all else, to make a good film, because you make a good film out of a popular franchise, it speaks for itself. And they even released a new promotional image for Demon Slayer Infinity Castle right here. It looks great. Honestly, it's crazy that the promotional imagery looks pretty much straight up like what the anime movie would look like, where back in the days you would see like an image, and even sometimes still, you know, you get the marketing and they'll make the marketing look really great, and maybe the TV series or the movie won't look as gorgeous as that, or you'd be like, oh, imagine they could. Like, it's crazy that this promotional image looks legitimately like how the film actually looks. So bravo to Demon Slayer. Okay, and something that I wanted to show you guys, because recently I was kicking it with my best friend, and ultimately he gave me a couple of things and I figured I'd share it with you guys. For starters, he gave me this Levi action figure that looks really freaking awesome. At the end of the day, you know, one of the things that you can appreciate about Levi is that while Eren may have started the rumbling, Levi finished it. Let me take it out of the packaging so you guys can actually see what it looks like. As you can see right here, looks pretty good, I ain't gonna lie. And yeah, honestly, you know, shout outs to Attack on Titan. If Isayama ever decided to do something else, of course a lot of people will check it out. And then a little known fact about me is that yes, I do enjoy me some cake, but the only ITZY member for me personally is right here. I ain't gonna lie, 11 out of 10, queen right there. Okay, so Bleach fans, we got a little bit of insight and info into the mind of creator Tite Kubo regarding Bleach, and in particular, well, some of the things that inspires him to draw what he draws. Because in a Q&A, he was asked about why he draws certain things, and well, here's how it went. When you contribute an illustration to another work, according to what criteria do you choose the character to draw? In general, I simply draw the characters I like. The other day for Black Clover, it was an exception. At the moment I received the request, I was just eating with Sunohara-kun, a mangaka, Saku, Idol, and Shimono-san, Seiyu, the voice of Noct in Black Clover. So I asked Shimono-san and Saku, who know Black Clover well, to choose for me. In the end, we narrowed it down to Noct and Zora, but Shimono-san said it would be too intimidating if the character you drew while I'm present was precisely mine. And honestly, it just seems like for the most part, yeah, homie takes requests from time to time, but for the most part, he only likes to draw the things that he actually likes to draw. And I respect that, because honestly, he basically is saying, yo, I draw what I like, I draw what I want, and yeah. Although he's not completely to the point of like, no, I only draw. Like if some people especially is around him and he's like, oh, you know, you want me to draw that, I'll draw it for you, but this is what I actually want to draw. So shout out to Tite Kubo, because I appreciate an artist that is just honest and truthful. But yeah, that's all I have for this one. I'm Tim. As always, people, have an awesome day. Peace in.
No time for the evils of life. Every king need a queen, be my wife. Be my lover, be my queen, be my homie. I ain't looking at another girl, no way.